Hello, my chicklets. Thank you for stopping by. Today, I have a story to you that's very important to me. It is something that I wrote when I was having a hard time getting stuff written and stuff done. I know that me personally, I always struggle with having too much to do and not enough time to do it, and then psyching myself out and not being able to get started. So this one is called Time Passes. Logan tapped his foot on the floor, leg bouncing as he looked at the screen in front of him. The time on the clock kept going, kept moving forward, but he couldn't move. He was stuck in his idleness like a screen waiting to load, but it never did. He was trying, fighting, desperately wanting to, but he couldn't get his body to move. The weight seemed heavy as he continued to watch the YouTube video that was playing. It was supposed to be a brief reprieve from work. It was supposed to be one video. It was supposed to be a lot of things, yet here he was. It had been 4 hours. One video played into the next, and Logan watched as the clock ticked by. The world was moving forward without him, and he couldn't get his body to move. After the next video, he told himself, watching as autoplay continued his cycle. But the next video ended at 9:02, and he couldn't start working at an 02. That wasn't right. It was off, uneven, so he waited for one more, hating himself with each video that went forward. His fingers curled into his legs, but he couldn't lift them up. He had a list he needed to finish. There were things he needed to do and things he wanted to do, but he couldn't. All he could do was watch the next video play and the clock tick forward. As he sat immobile in his chair, he heard a litany of echoes in his head, the voices of his past that told him lies about who he was. Voices he tried to drown out, but they would always come back in his darkest moments. Worthless, lazy, slacker. For so long he was defined by his output, by what he could accomplish, what he could produce. He needed to start working. What was the point of him if he didn't get his work done? From the outside, he must have looked completely fine. His breath was even, he wasn't shaking, but he could feel the way the muscles in his jaw tightened from self-loathing, the way his shoulders pinched inward. He had so much that he needed to get done, and each moment that passed, he remembered something else. There were schedules, plans, budgets, so many things he was in charge of, but here he was, idling on the internet. The pain finally broke outward, causing his eyes to water. He just wanted to move, just needed to get started. At the end of this video, he would lie to himself, hoping that this time it would be true. Over and over, he fought to find the magic collision that would break him out of his spell. All the while, the echoes in his head became louder. They were screaming at the top of their non-existent lungs, and the message was beginning to sink in. He had lost the right to be loved, lost the right to care and affection. He felt the tears sliding down his face, felt his breath catching in his throat. He felt someone covering his eyes. It was a sharp sensation, something suddenly real in a downward spiral. His tears began to spill out harder as his chair was pulled away from the computer and the video shut off. A sweet mercy he didn't realize he needed. Logan was pulled out from his frozen state, and the fear shot through him. No numbing left from the video that played. I can't, he said quietly. I have so much to do. His voice was hoarse. He sounded as raw as he felt. He was finally out of the cycle, but he now needed to work. He needed to make up for the hours he had wasted. Shh. No, you don't, buddy. Logan heard Janus's voice, and his shoulders crumbled, hands coming up to hold the gloved hands tight against his eyes. He didn't want to see the world, didn't want to have to face it. Nothing is more important than rest now. Janus's gloves were hiding him from the world, keeping him together even as he fell apart. You don't have to take on the world. His voice was soft and sweet, gentle and kind. So rarely did Logan hear that voice from Janus. So rarely did he hear something like that from anyone, not directed towards him. It's okay to rest. But if I don't? Shh, Janus repeated, keeping one hand over Logan's eyes, the other leading him out of his desk chair. Forget about the rest of the world. Just focus on me. Focus on my voice. He was leading Logan somewhere, a place he should have known because this was his room. This was his space, but the world was so fuzzy. It's all right, Logan. Focus on me. Nothing else matters. He wished that were true. He was going to try desperately to believe Janus. His legs hit the back of his bed, and he obediently sat down, slowly led, down, 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 until he was on his back, Janus's hand finally beginning to pull away. The room was dimmer now, softer in color. The laptop was no longer pouring out its harsh white light. Instead, his bedside lamp had been turned on. The color was wrong, but it was comforting. Logan could feel his clothes had been changed as well. The soft cotton of his pajamas hugging his body rather than the harsh pull of his slacks. Janus was kneeling by his bedside, gently stroking his hair, occasionally running over his eyes as if to encourage him to close them. Logan obliged. Someone was here to help him, to care for him, when his own body would not. He wasn't fighting alone anymore. The moment he closed his eyes, he felt the heaviness from the day. It weighed on him like a lead blanket, but as Janus continued to softly pet his hair, he let go. He let out a breath that shook with all of the pain that escaped him, all of the worry that tried to linger. I have to. It was one final desperate plea to follow the anxiety and troubles of his mind, but Janus continued to attempt to cajole him into resting. We'll organize your list later. Decide what you actually need and what can wait, Janus whispered, and Logan could feel the light in his room going dimmer. But if I don't, Janus shushed him again, kneeling beside Logan and taking his hand. You need to take care of yourself. None of us will fault you for that. His voice was calm. The plane has been crashing for a while now, hasn't it? He asked, and Logan couldn't help but nod because it had. He had been drowning for a while at this point, and he needed the help. There would be days of ultra-productiveness, but they would immediately be followed by this, a lingering inability to do anything. Then let me take over and pilot for a bit. Janus's voice continued to be soft and gentle, easily lulling Logan to comply. Just until you get back on your feet. I won't take over forever. Just long enough. It's okay to need help sometimes. It was hard to believe that. Hard to accept that sometimes he would need help, and sometimes he just couldn't do everything on his own. He would try. For now, he would try to believe, and he would try to rest. Thank you, Logan muttered, squeezing Janus's hand. Thank you. He needed this, more than he knew. He needed someone to tell him it was okay to rest. Of course, Janus whispered, attempting to pull him into sleep. Allow your mind to drift off. Take this moment to just be. In the morning, things will be better. Thank you all for listening. I do hope y'all enjoyed it. Please remember, you are worthy of rest. You are worthy of relaxation. And it is okay to put off what can be done tomorrow. For today, rest. I hope you have a wonderful day.